Expert as well as politician, a former gubernatorial candidate, that is of Murang'a. Dr. You intend to go back?
Yes.
So people of Murang'a should be waiting for you.
You know.
They actually sent greetings, some of them saying that is my political mentor, and yeah.
Yeah, once you begin a journey,
yes,
you have to finish it.
Right. The ultimate goal is to change the lives of the people of Murang'a?
Yes, it was never about me. It's about the country, the county, the country moving forward, and I have a very, very strong interest in making sure that the healthcare system in Kenya is on the right trajectory, starting from Murang'a. Some progress has been made.
All right.
The governor there is trying and he's doing a good job so far, but the healthcare sector is still reeling,
right,
which is my biggest interest and area.
All right. Well and good. And Member of Parliament of Kacheliba, Titus Lute, you say that politics in Kacheliba is fairly good, but from what I hear, there are members of Parliament I've spoken to that have sworn never to go back into that space. They say, Mimi, I'm not going back to that space. First-time members of Parliament, and some of them actually say that they still intend to go and continue the good work according to what it is that they are doing. But most of the Kenyans fairly feel that members of Parliament have really not done well. What do you make of the performance of the Parliament that you sit in so far, even as we're headed into that political season?
Well, thank you. It will be unfair for a player to be asked to gauge the level of play that he does. The referee and the spectators are the ones who are supposed to say that.
Right.
But that notwithstanding, there is no time where in this country we've allowed the members of Parliament to have done anything. From Kenyatta 1, Moi, Kibaki, Kenyatta 2, and also now Uhuru. Every time the members of Parliament go in, we always say that they fail us. It is something that will continue even beyond this Parliament.
Okay.
So I'm not in the position to say whether this Parliament has performed well or not. I will be a Kenyan, just like you, to say that members of Parliament need to do better than what they have done now, and need to do better than what has been done in future by every other Parliament from the first Parliament. Okay. So for me, I'll actually say it is a wake-up call when the members of public are asking members of Parliament to pull up their socks. I think it is something that is very healthy to any Parliament, even when I will not be a member of Parliament. Because definitely there will be a time when I will not be a member of Parliament. I will still ask the Parliament of that time, probably the 16th, the 17th, the 18th Parliament, to pull up their socks, because the expectation that we've got as a country is much more bigger than the output that we get from this country. And unless every arm of government, the judiciary, we are also complaining about the judiciary. Right. The executive, we are also complaining about the executive. And not now. You remember during Uhuru's time, there was a lot of complaints. Yeah. Even only during the Kibaki's time, first term, the first 2 years, 2013 and 2014, when the members of public will apprehend a policeman in the streets, get them off their jobs because they were involved in corruption. But after that, what happened? Things went back to normal. And so for me, I'll say it will be important for the members of public to continue agitating for asking for the arms of government to perform. Okay. But then I will still say this Parliament, despite the challenges that it's gone through, has also been able to up their game to the levels where we are. So when the game becomes hotter, the players are also becoming tougher. Right. So for me, I'll say, even the next Parliament, then the Parliament number 14, we expect the challenges to be not the challenges of now. And so we also expect the Parliament of then to perform to the levels of those challenges. I
love that approach, the diplomatic approach, I must admit, but well, fairly responded to. Doc, we had left it at that point of just how Gen Z you can get, especially when everybody is committed towards changing a nation. But before we even get to that, because then we'll come to the expected, celebrations of what it is, or anniversary of what it is that was the climax of the Gen Z protests. I have seen a statement from your party that speaks to the unfortunate occurrence today, highlighting the demise of Albert Ojwang. And we have carried a story here that is heart-wrenching. Where do you suppose we're headed as a nation? And do you suppose that this are acts of politics, and should they get that ugly? I mean, Jerry happened for the better part of last week, I would say, because we are in, in the beginning of the week. And I imagine that we would not be talking about the same thing today. But
really sad that we've lost Ojwang in such a circumstance, in a police station where actually you expect your rights to be upheld. And if possible, you expect civility to get justice. And that's the place where he loses his life with no proper accountability. Actually, it's a bit arrogant the way, the statements that the police are actually issuing, because you can't issue such demeaning statements that somebody knocked his head in a police and lost his life. It's really unfortunate because he penned a criticism against the government. Just like you mentioned about parliament, you can't use a master's tool to demolish a master's house. These are the problems we're having. Why institutions are not working. Because the moment, and this is why we're telling the old guards, they've refused to smell the smoke, and this is why now the fire is burning them. And we will continue to smoke them out. Because you cannot oversight your mandate. An executive have decided to be the legislator and at the same time the judiciary. It doesn't happen because of the influences and the manipulations they have been orchestrating around these institutions to a point that their independentness actually does not inspire Kenyans' confidence at all. And indeed, as a country, the overriding interest for all of us is for us to grow and develop economically. Everybody wants development or growth. And I'm sure even Mheshimiwa, if things were well, as you were saying, that the challenges that come with representation and technicality around those fields, some people can choose to pursue their interests if there's adequate environment for people to pursue economic investment. But as we speak right now, every indicators that we require for us to develop or to grow our economy actually have been inverted by the same leaders. If we want to even look at the factors of economic growth, labor is very key. You can't, and there's no way you can strengthen labor if you're not strengthening education. Right now, they even begun to weaken education. You hear even subjects like maths and sciences are now being treated as optional subjects.
But at least they.
Well, if you want to be a Silicon Savannah, there are specific standards that countries that have gone there actually have there are measures that they put in place. And if we were to talk about even land as a resource, just the other day I was in Taita Taveta. Do you know how much land the people of the county of Taita Taveta has? Less than 10% of a land. Because about 60% I think is a reserve.
Right.
20% is side store plantation. There's 10% that they're sharing with the rocks and the roads and their houses. They don't have land. Yet the land that is kept away from them actually is not being utilized. And the people are actually going hungry here with lack of food in an environment that can yield high product that can even feed the entire country.
A recipe for crisis, yes.
We look at factors that can help us to grow our economy, they are being undermined by the state organs. And this is why we are telling them that you are living outside your era. And them, their speciality has been to steal and to loot public resources.
Well, unfortunately, and I'm not a prophetess of doom, but historically, say from the Kibaki era that Mheshimiwa highlights, situations have been seen to, go from good to worse. And you want to ask yourself, when we have very many faces that, promise Kenyans better leadership, just what are the probabilities of this? And this also, as you highlight the concern that we have talked about, the gentleman who lost his life, under police custody. This is roughly like 1 year. into the anniversary of Gen Z protests, and perhaps month after month there's been abductions, loss of life, and all these things, that the government is not keen to address them because then they see the danger that would come along with that in the event that they do not. Because if Gen Zs are going to talk about an anniversary or perhaps marching in the streets, which is their constitutional right, then the probability of the situation getting worse could arise.
Now, it is very, very unfortunate that what we see is a government that has lost the moral authority to govern, because it's about governing people. And if we get to the point where we are, where you say something that really is not threatening to the state, because what Jerry had posted, I don't know how that is a threat to the state, so that she had to spend a long weekend as a guest of the state. And then another gentleman, they take him in and he's dead, hot on the heels of an MP being gunned down right here in the city of Nairobi. And right now, we are not hearing anything about bringing anybody to book. What we are engaged in is who is going to be the next MP for that particular area. When you have a government that is not sensitive to the lives of the people, the responsibility of government, first of all, is to protect the lives of its citizens. To be able, to the extent that the other day we also had our own Kenyan people being turned back from Tanzania, and the government is mum. So we have a scenario in our nation where there is no one to oversight the government, because the party that was the biggest is in bed with the government. So therefore, things happen and there's nobody to question. And I think the state has gotten to the point of saying, what I do? What I do? Because there's no one. And in that kind of a situation, we would expect that now that the government that is in power, the Kenya Kwanza government, has managed to tame, as it were, the opposition that is there, would have expected that they would use that opportunity to work and deliver results for Kenyans. But what we are seeing is a rollback to the Moi era, where delegations go to State House and go home smiling, where we are seeing, people dishing out money. Now, to how many people can you dish out that money? And the Kibaki government, what they realized was that let us put institutions to work. Let us make sure that the taxes that are collected are applied to work. There is nothing more magical than that, and the country was able to move forward. Yes, I mean, the politics was a little bit fluid, but when you look at the entire Kibaki era, right from 2002 all the way to 2012, we had very, very positive movement. Then the Uhuru government with William Ruto, 2013, they started off well, and then slowly we started going back. We had a scenario where we had a Vision 2030, which was very well designed, and which would have moved our country from one government to another, but with a focus. And over time, you can see gains. Now, we are lost as we sit around. Right now, we don't exactly know. There's housing. Now housing, how many? Housing, money now can be used to do, I don't know, markets. The money is being taken from people's payroll by force. And that money that has been taken so that the pay slip is down. That money, no accountability. We don't know. There was talk about so many houses per year. What is the talk now? We don't know.
All right.
We are lost. So in that kind of
At least there's some people who got houses the other time, even though some argue that it's from the previous regime to now. I mean, let's give it to the government for that.
How many houses? Yes, we saw the opening of houses in Mukuru. How many houses? How many houses were promised? How much money has been raised?
Fair enough. Let's allow
housing.
let's get you here. And let's get you here.
Well, I think it's important that things we are also put into perspective.
Right.
Because if we politicize everything to levels where we ask for things that we've seen, Uhuru government had what we call the four-point agenda.
Yes.
One of them was housing. And for 10 years, Uhuru government only did 1,200 houses for 10 years.
Right.
This government, it's good to give credit where it's deserved.
Okay.
If you saw what happened in Kibera, after the president handed over 1,300 houses in Mukuru, everybody in Kibera now realized this thing is not a joke, it's true. 1,300 houses were handed in one day in Mukuru. If you go to Kibera now, for those who fly, for those who are fortunate to fly out of Wilson Airport, you will see the changing face of the slum called Kibera. It is actually turning out into a modern city. And if you go to every constituency, houses are being constructed. And this government...
And handed over to who? Because there was also some mystery.
The houses that have been handed over is 1,300. Because, you know, to build a storied building house, you also build the houses. And I think everybody sitting here have also built houses. To build up those kind of houses requires some time. It first of all requires mobilization, because it was not that when the government came in the first year that we started building houses.
Some are from Uhuru, yes.
From Uhuru is 1,200 houses, and they are not in Mukuru. They are on this side. You actually know where they are.
Right.
Those ones are also handed over before. So these ones in Mukuru were the ones that were constructed during this time. And this started when we started the finance bill of 2022-2023. And you know, there were contentions. Yes, but then that money was collected. And if you go to every part of this country, every constituency, you will see houses coming up. Okay. Probably what we need to do is to do an audit of who gets these houses. But in terms of whether the houses are constructed or not, I think let's be fair. Houses are being constructed. That money that is collected, as much as we want to politicize it, is actually going into construction of houses. And I'll tell you, transport in any country that is developed, housing in any country that is developed, health in any country that is developed, is actually managed by the national government. And I think this government starts. If you look at SHA, for example, today I was lucky. I sat in a church and a pastor told people in a church, listen, don't listen to shenanigans. My wife, last week, on Monday, registered on SHA, and on Wednesday was able to get around 130,000 or something like that from SHA. I am also a beneficiary of SHA. I've actually seen people benefiting from SHA, despite the fact that we are being deducted this amount of money. Okay. We also need to say SHA is not as bad as NHIF. In fact, SHA is really working. And the people that have actually been castigating SHA for a long period of time, their relatives themselves are in SHA, but when they sit in studios like this, they will say SHA is not working. This thing is working.
And the only thing, is at the heart of
the only thing that we
medicine
need to
in this nation, yes.
The only thing that we need to say about this is everything that starts as got teething challenges. And SHA, we had teething challenges. But of late, have you heard of people complaining about SHA? SHA is picking up, and SHA is going to be a game changer. And McHugh, when Azimio were campaigning, they talked about an universal health. When Kenya Kwanza campaigned, they talked about universal health. When Uhuru Kenyatta started, Charity Ngilu, at that time, was the Minister of Health. They started something like that, but they failed. They could not move beyond. So it required somebody with muscle to be able to force people. At the point, It is forcing. But until when the people started seeing the importance of this, then they will voluntarily say, we need this health system.
I'll allow the other gentleman to.
For me, I'll say, let us not castigate the government so much, even for things that we can see are actually happening. The things that we can see are actually delivering to this country.
All right, Dr. Harry.
And
I'm coming up with figures as to what's going on and what's happening and what is working and what is not working.
When Moses was told to choose leaders in Exodus 18:21, he was told to look for 4 qualities in leadership. Choose people who are able and capable. That was first quality. Second quality was to choose people who fear God, which is a serious tenet even in the preamble of our Constitution. And again, the third one was to choose people who speak the truth. And the fourth one was to choose people who hate corruption. And when it comes to meritocracy, ability and capability in this UDA government, they've even fired their cabinet severally on the basis of merit. And they still have not learned. They keep surrounding themselves with the same feathers, or birds with the same feathers, expecting different results, doing the same things. But of course, when it comes to speaking, they would speak and promise so many things. Actually, one major recourse they are having with the Gen Zs today is perennial lies, ever since they were in junior schools regarding laptops. But I'm coming to the reality and factors that can prove wrong what they are talking about. Just the other day, even just Kenya Bureau of Statistics will show you that during colonial era, population fertility of Kenyans was around 10%. Where is it today? It's between 2.8. What is happening? Look at education and its quality. Accessibility to education during Kibaki era, accessibility has flopped to date, such that as we speak today, there are people who are actually not going to school and cannot access education, leave alone university. People are called, and I'm sure most of you are invited into a WhatsApp group to raise school fees for people in secondary schools. So sometimes when people sit around and yap, their own rhetorics and lie straight in our open, they do that because they never think that they can sit in a table with people like us who can point out the truth and declare justice.
And perhaps
this is why you've seen us rallying Gen Zs. And even the death of Ojwang, we're not going to let it go like that. We are not going to sit back and say that we've waited. Actually, they've just taken us back to the street. We thought we could celebrate the June 25th peacefully and remember and just candlelight, but look at what they're doing to us. So as we speak today, look for Mama Mboga. You talk of building houses. What is the economic reality? Look at them, the teachers or even the civil servants who are victims of those deductions. How much are you deducting from them? And what are you showing for the amount that you've deducted?
All right, fair enough.
If anything, they deduct much, pour into their pockets, and then showcase something little in the name that we are working. This is the hypocrisy that Kenyans should not be treated to in our watch.
Dr. Harry, specifically to Shah, are you confident that that is the direction that Kenyans should take, especially when you're looking at achieving what would be considered as universal health care, universal health coverage? And is it something that is going to be a game changer, as highlighted by Member of Parliament here?
Now, the theory behind social health authority, because that is what SHA is sound, very sound. I mean, we have the whole idea of universal health is a global movement, and we in the healthcare sector have wanted this for years. So the idea is very, very noble. In SHA, you remember there are 3 funds. There is the Social Health Insurance Fund, which is the one that really is getting money, because this money is being deducted from employees and going to SHIF, as it is. There is another fund, the Primary Health Fund, which is supposed to be coming from the National Treasury. And this money should be available up to level 4 in the hospitals. How much has the government in this last year from Treasury allocated to the Primary Health Fund, so that when people go to that local health center, they are seen by a personnel, a healthcare personnel. Where are the healthcare personnel? They are literally on strike. You see them camping at Senate, people who had been taken on board because of universal health during the COVID situation, they are now jobless. So healthcare personnel across the country are highly demotivated and not able to properly deliver the service. The people are supposed to find that there is medicine at that level. What is the state there? But that fund is lacking enough money. And Mheshimiwa here, you should really challenge this budget which is coming. There should be money for that primary health care. Then the third one is the one that takes care of chronic diseases. Because today, the cancer, the high blood pressure, and diabetes complication, kidney failure, again, that is supposed to be funded from Treasury to meet those. Now, we have a scenario where only one fund, which is where people are being deducted. And by the way, the idea of deducting people who earn more is a good idea. It is a good idea. So the theory is good. Never mind what was wrong with NHIF, that we had to bury it instead of improving it. Did we have to spend 104 billion shillings to install a system that doesn't work? But it is improving. I must say, where we sit now is not where we were 6 months ago. I would recommend anyone who doesn't have SHA to join. Nobody should be discouraged from joining. Then we hold account. The issue is we need to know this money, is it being allocated properly? Yes, it is being collected. Where is the input of the other two funds so that people can receive health? When we say universal health coverage, what do we mean? Yes, you can allocate 120K. I know somebody who needs to go for a very important surgery, very important surgery that is life-saving. But the allocation is nothing. It cannot help.
Compared to?
You know, it is better than nothing. Universal health coverage means
it should be something
that when you go to the hospital, you find a happy clinician to serve you. You are able to get the medicines or the reagents that need to do the test, and you are able to be attended to, and you go home without being asked to pay anything. That is what it is. But the situation today, we have moved a step forward, yes, but people are still having to sell their cattle. They are still having to sell their The idea is half a loaf is better than none. Is that what they're trying to say? Which the thing is,
well, if
there was real political...
Health is exorbitantly expensive as we speak.
Dr.
If there was real political will to make it work, put the right people. At the moment, I think we have a good PS in health, but let him work. There is a good CEO in the SAR, but let her work. The issue is, where are decisions made concerning which money should go where? Where are they made?
All right.
They are supposed to be made in National Assembly, but is that the situation?
Member of Parliament will tell us. But Member of Parliament, as well as you respond to that, and it's a beautiful thing to see some sectors work and others. Of course, the question is, why is it that they're dwindling? If you're going to talk to Kenyans, just on face value, about the question of education, which Dr. had raised here, that we hear reports of parents are going to begin paying for their children's education after enjoying 20 years of free, primary education, and that, of course, government say that they They owe schools about 60 billion, making it very difficult for the free education program to continue. That universities today, if you look at the situations, the main university, the University of Nairobi, the situation there is wanting, even, just getting to the level of leadership. When we're talking about HELB coming out to say that, please pay your loans because then the situation is dire. And the very basic education in the country is literally tearing. How do you speak to the people and tell them, okay, SHA is working, but the education sector is dwindling, that this used to work, but now it is, retrogressively, taking a sad approach? What would you say?
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to delve a little bit into what my brother just said about economic indicator progress. And he said that during independence time, our fertility rate was 10%, and now it is 2.3. That basically means we are doing bad. If fertility was an indicator of progress, Africa will be the most progressive.
Because then we...
Oh, yeah, because they are very fertile. So I don't think that will be anything that we need to bring here, because that is not fertility. In fact, if you go to all progressive countries, fertility is dwindling. And I think there's a relationship between fertility and economic growth, and even including in our families. If you find families that are that are affluent, their fertility rate is down. And I think that is something that we do not need to debate. Two, I also want us to say, I agree with what my governor said. I'll call him Governor Moses Mwangi, because he's actually agreed that SHA is working. In fact, he's even asked people that let's contribute.
Right.
But he actually goes beyond and say, universal basically means that you need to pay nothing. In the world, there's nothing for free. Okay. Obama started what we call Obamacare. If we want to have free things, we need to contribute to it. That's the reason why when we say, let us go to ask Kenyans to contribute more to the kitty, Kenyans are saying no.
Is that what Daktari said? Daktari said that when you go to hospital, contribute, but when you go to hospital, let you not be told that we will only cover this amount of money and not cover this.
And exactly, he said you need to come out of it free, that you need to go and get health practitioners that are happy, that health facilities, or everything should be, like you walk in and you come out happy. That everything that you see, including the electricity we see here, is cost money. And because as a country, we cannot continue asking for money from abroad, taking loans from abroad so that it's financed for future pay by our generations, we need to pay it now. And when we ask people that we pay it now, people say we do not want. But the same people are actually asking for free services. So let us agree and appreciate. And I want to thank him for actually saying people need to register for SHA, because SHA is something that has moved a step forward ahead of what we had in what we call the NHIF. So that is an admission that is very good for us. The only thing is, can we now continue improving? And one of the ways of improving is not the political, like he says. It is the financial, because we need to pay. It is not a politician to come and stand at the hospital and start telling people to get free services. It is the money that comes in there that buys the drugs and pay for the health workers, pay for electricity and water. So I'll actually want to say, Kenyans, if we really want to see our systems work, please can we also ensure that we contribute to the kitty that we call the finance.
Until then, what will government do to save face?
I must correct.
Me to have a number of corrections.
All right. Are you done? Are you done?
I am misunderstood.
Mheshimiwa?
Yeah, let him first of all correct himself. Probably I misunderstood him, but I think he said universal health basically means that you walk in and walk out and everything is good for you.
Universal health, look at the definition. What does it mean? It covers everybody. It covers everybody. We set 3 funds. If those 3 funds are funded, the people who are contributing, the ones with pay slips, they are contributing. The rest, we have how many people? Is it over 19 million that have registered?
Registered. Yeah.
How many, other than those who are on the pay slip, how many of the others are contributing? Vis-a-vis NHIF. NHIF, it was very clear. I was paying 500 shillings per month for my mother so that she can be covered with NHIF. And when she was sick, she was covered.
To what
Through
level?
NHIF, she was covered. Today, they introduced something we call means testing. So someone goes in the village, they have a stone house that was put up there by their dead husband. So in that means testing, it shows like this poor lady who is a widow needs to contribute not 500 shillings, but 1,200 shillings. So they talk to each other. So they register, but the process is wrong. I want to say NHIF was a better deal as we speak in terms of mopping resources. Okay. SHA is only a small fraction those who are employed, and that is why it doesn't have enough money, because it is wrought with things which are theoretically, it's just like the university thing. You say, oh, we have to fund university depending on category, they are categorized. But then you are trying to introduce things which look good on paper. The theory is good. There's a difference between theory and practice. So I would tell people to register, because what alternative do we have? If you don't register for SHA, what alternative do you have? Okay. There is no NHIF, and we want to know NHIF, why it is being buried, where are the debts that are owed to the mission hospitals, and many hospitals who are reeling in debt because they are owed and they don't want to pay. So my view is that the idea is good, that I admit. The idea of universal health, and it works, okay, wherever it works, is that let's get everything right. We contribute, people must contribute. There is no free lunch in this world. And I think people never refused to contribute. As long as they the money yes, that has been given must be accounted for. Fair. Debts must be paid. All right. Yes. I want to take it away from you to yes, Daktari briefly, so that
Linda, globally, show me which economy has been grown on charity or aid. Certainly, no, none. Nowhere in the world. Of course, you've seen the latest model of dishing the Harambee. It's never worked anywhere in the world. And if you therefore, there's a general agreement that Kenyans must contribute. Well, no, I'm just talking about general economic. I'm correcting and putting into context whatever statements he made earlier regarding economic growth vis-a-vis population, and also current policies that we are seeing as we speak. Yeah, no economy grows through charity or Harambee or donations the way they see. Economics, the world over, those, if we can even refer to China or even the West, who is losing to the East still, what measures have they put in place for their economies to grow? There are specific indicators that if you miss, then definitely your intention is not to grow your economy. If you miss out on labor, quality labor, and capital, and productivity, quality labor will come out of quality education. And that must be an accessible education, if possible to all. That will provide you with quality labor. But if you are compromising, because as we are speaking today, the policies that our government have adopted, and I know courtesy of the advice of their lenders, whose intention is to continue harvesting cheap labor in this geographical location because their population is aging. And where will they get cheap labor is here. And for them to get cheap labor, they must put a spanner in the works in our education curriculum. And who buys it and who propels it? The same guys that we're talking about. Everywhere we are talking about globally, wherever we're having a bigger economy, look at their population. Whoever is saying that relationship of population to economy actually is the other way around should be advised. Look at China. What's their population? Even in Africa, the largest economy in Africa, what's their population? Yeah, so when you're talking about population and the measures that they're putting to cause infertility, even in our population, Daktari, we should call them out. It requires justice. They have even injected our daughters with permanent infertility things without them knowing. People are trying to get babies and they can't because they were misadvised and the government allowed in the market in their hands to use things that have damaged them to date. In other words, the government has not had the actual interests of the citizen at heart, if not PR and propaganda, which they would like to showcase for purposes of competing among themselves. Because as we speak, right now, dynasties divided themselves into two, and they're the same sides of the coin. The one is pulling with the cousins, another one is pulling with the fellow tribesmen, while they are living Kenyans here who are pursuing economic development to, if possible, because Kenya is, we are not poor. What we are lacking is, what we are having is poor leadership. We have the resources. If Kenyans were given opportunity with our resilience, we would not just be equal in the face of humanity, we would lead in economic growth.
Let's
but
take
as
it back
we speak right now,
yes.
leadership is pulling us down.
All right, Dr. Mheshimiwa, what will it take for government to save its face and perhaps restore that, confidence, from the people? Because then we're talking about a government that is seeking its second term, but also we're talking about a government that intends to show its citizenry that indeed we have worked for you and we continue to work for you, and we hope that you give us, that benefit of doubt that SHA is going to work, that this affordable housing is going to work and all that. What will it take? When you're looking at a scenario where today, the government or perhaps the president is, dishing out statements that incriminate the government of the day by saying that, well, at least, those who were abducted are now back with family, perhaps an acknowledgement. And when we're talking about scenarios where someone is taken by police, from what we hear, and then, of course, loses their life, in police custody, it gets you wondering, what will it take for the government to just, tell the public, you can have confidence in us?
For me, I think I will join other Kenyans to condemn abductions, and especially the killings, and look at the young man that was brought all the way from Harambee to die at the Central Police Station here. He will have committed, he will have actually murdered himself, he will have actually committed suicide in Harambee, but he would not have waited to come and commit suicide here. And I think in a police cell, you do not expect to see one person. There are many, and especially at the Central Police Station. So we have witnesses that will have said this person killed himself or not. So for me, I will condemn that, and I think the president has also condemned this, because government is an amorphous thing. We've got various harms. And I will call upon those who are responsible for abductions or anything within government to actually give the president a good name by not doing what the president said he was not going to do. And I'll call on the president to fire all those people that are actually bringing him the bad image of abducting people. And I want to say, I think the president has got a heart. If you actually saw what happened during the Gen Z's time, the president had the powers, what we saw during Matiang'i's time. There's a time Matiang'i went all the way, one citizen was actually against the president, Uhuru Kenyatta then. He went to Tigoni and switched off citizens' hearing for a week and said, go to where we want. Because he knew that citizen was mobilizing people against the president. But if you look at what happened during the Gen Z's time, the president was even advised to shut down the social media because that is where the young people were actually mobilizing themselves. But he said, no, the Constitution allowed them to do that. Other presidents will have done differently. So for me, I think the president has got a human heart. The president wants to work for Kenyans, but probably the systems within. And again, these systems, to be sincere, like what he said about what we're seeing hailing the universities, they're crumbling. They're not crumbling because it's of a problem that was started now. They're crumbling because of problems that were started way above. So I think the president is also fighting with the government that has
Linda is not fair.
Let's allow him. Let's allow him
to exempt the president.
Let's allow him. Let's allow him. And then we come to you.
It is important to allow me to say, I'll give you your time, because the president is a symbol of unity. And the president is not the DCI, the president is not the doctor, the president is not the police. The president is the head. In your house, you could be a pastor, but your children are thugs. The police, once they get hold of that child, they will not come for you as a father. They will go for that criminal. So that's the reason why I'm saying, if the president is the pastor, for example, and we've got criminals within, and that is what Uhuru said, I am the driver of the bus, but inside here there are pickpockets and many others. So those are the people that I'm saying, let the president take action against.
Okay.
And because these things are coming, and we are actually seeing action being taken for others, I think the president will continually address this matter. So for me, I'll say there is no government that is perfect. It's only the government of God that is perfect. Let's give government the time to be able to correct the mistakes and be able to deliver for Kenyans.
Fair enough.
Linda,
I'll give you 45 seconds to respond to him.
The president knows exactly what is happening and the source of abduction. It was even in the public. Actually, we came out and we even knew who was housing them and where they were, and even the foreigners, some who had been brought in. These things have been orchestrated and have been so well planned, and even how they're using Safaricom and they're using CCTVs to lure all these Gen Zs and capture them. This is something you cannot say that the president is not aware of, that he is not behind it and doesn't know. There are some people who are doing it that he is ignorant of it. The president knows this thing very well, and the buck stops with him, and will take the blame right where it belongs. Is the president who is behind all these things. It's high time he walk in according to the law and rule by the law. And if he's ruling by anarchy, the anarchy begets anarchy. Treachery begets treachery.
Unfortunately. As we close, Dr.
Well, you know, everything rises and falls at leadership. In the Oval Office of the President of the United States of America, there is something written. The buck stops here. Whether this country rises or falls, the buck stops with the president.
Right.
We have institutions, yes. Those institutions will work. And they have worked before. If the head of state does the job he's supposed to do, as I say, monkeys do, monkeys see, monkey see. You know, we need to follow the president. When you listen to him, he sounds like a good man.
Right.
But what goes on around? What goes on around does not portray the talk. The walk does not represent the talk.
So if the talk does not represent the walk. Oh, they actually the talk, walk the talk, talk the walk. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Dr. Moses Mwangi, governance expert as well as politician and also health specialist, Asante Sana. We also have second last speaker, Dr. Justice Juma, Party Leader, Justice and Freedom Party, and last but not least, in the Center, Member of Parliament of Kacheliba, Titus Lute. Time does fly, and we could not exhaust everything, but the conversation continues on our other programs, as well as we look forward to see you again next Sunday for a comprehensive conversation revolving around the politics of the nation and basically current affairs. My name is Linda Lela. It was great having you, appreciating the team that as well that contributed to the broadcast, and to say Asante Sana for the immense feedback from you. And of course, we do not get to sample that in the best interest of time. Do have yourself a lovely night.